What do you not get about it? Dude, it's her version, okay?
But it's our version.
Yeah.
It's always been ours.
When white and blue come out,
Mainly hers. Though.
just wait until white and blue come out and then you'll get it. Sorry, I
Hard to
riled
let
you
that
up.
go, you know? Okay, here we go.
Do people say that a
Just
lot?
take 10 minutes and
Do
Yeah.
people say that?
Yeah.
That she's indie?
She, like, does things her own way. It's like,
Okay.
all right. Today we're talking about Taylor Swift.
We
is
tried to talk
doing
about
things
The
your
Office,
own way
but
what
this-
defines someone as being indie.
You'd have to ask those people.
She's
Not those people.
on Sony.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of indie.
I hear you. I know. Are we rolling?
Oh yeah.
Inhale the bullshit. Exhale
More
the
bull-
bull. Yeah, wait.
Am I gonna have to cut that out?
Inhale the serenity. Exhale the bullshit. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay, here we go.
There always will be paper doll, and then I'll always put her in her place.
Yes.
Do you know what he's referencing?
No.
It's
But
John
I
Mayer.
agree.
It's John Mayer's song.
Always be John Frusciante. That will put her in her place.
Was it just too far to fall? For a little paper doll. Hold on. I gotta pull something up for this. I'm ready.
The episodes?
No. I'm ready.
But the episodes too, right?
Yeah, I'll have those. I have those.
Hello.
You gotta give it a clap.
Whoa. Yes.
Check.
Okay. Are you going to say anything when I say hello
Nope.
this time? Okay. What about you?
Who knows?
Hello. Welcome to This Podcast Is Not For You. I am Jake,
I'm Wes.
My name is Gene Lollipop.
and we are here talking about The Office Season 9 and the show overall once we transition to our finale of the Office series on Season 2
There it
of
is.
This Podcast Is Not For You.
One last time.
So,
He thought he
it's
wouldn't
been a
go there.
ride. Thank you for sticking with us. If you're just now finding us, we have been doing every season of The Office as individual episodes of Season 2 of This Podcast Is Not For You. Each season of The Office gets its own one episode in our Season 2 run of episodes of This Podcast Is Not For You. Now, if you're still around,
Gotta milk it.
thanks for
on the last
sticking around.
episode. Hey, thanks for sticking around. I'll cover while Jake's taking a drink. Thanks for coming. You know, we always say that this podcast is not for you, but you know,
No, you
That's-
take a drink and I cover
and
for
that's
you.
that's the truth. It really is.
And I'll cover for Peyton. We've all been big fans of The Office, so this has kind of been really fun to talk about all of the episodes. And Jake is still drinking,
So I'll take it.
Yeah.
So the final and 9th season, 9's an interesting number. Why didn't they end on 10? You know, now they're both taking drinks, so I have to basically run the episode.
Ah, that was good. Okay. So, anyway.
So loud.
We are here talking
Looks
about The
fine.
Office one last time. Season 9. The last season of The Office. The announced last season of The Office. They said, hey, this is the last one. So going into it, we were all kind of, whoa. How are they going to tie up everyone's character arcs? Kind of. That's what I was thinking, at least. And it premiered on September 20th, 2012. There are 25 episodes. And I just thought it'd be fun to ask if you guys remember where you were when the final season of The Office aired. Did you guys watch it live?
I actually did not. After Steve Carell had left and the things I'd seen in season 8, I was really underwhelmed by.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of stopped paying attention, just like kind of quietly hoping they were going to end it and I could ignore that those 2 seasons existed. But so I didn't watch it live. I watched it later.
I actually don't think I watched the final season live either. I think I had fallen off
The wagon.
I had fallen off watching it, like making sure I made it every week, and I felt like I missed so much that I was like, I want to go back through and watch it all at one time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why
So especially at that time, you couldn't watch each episode 4 days after, right? You know,
Right.
it wasn't up
it
immediately
wasn't on
after.
NBC.com
Yeah.
or something like that.
So if you missed it that week, it was like, well, I can't really watch it until.
But I had missed some in 8, missed some in 7, so I was like, well, I caught them. I think I watched the finale when it aired, but I
I
didn't
can't remember
watch-
if I did or not.
I don't think I watched many of the other episodes. I went back and watched one summer. The summer after all of it had come out, I bought started on Wes's copies of the DVDs, and then I think we bought the final season. I bought the final season or something. I watched
didn't.
all of the seasons in one summer. I know that. It was the summer after it had all
the
come
whole thing. Yeah, I watched them live. And then for the finale, me and Molly Kraling, one of my buddies from college, like we had a big old blowout at my house, and my mom was there, and because she had been watching it the whole time too, and so it was fun. It was sad,
Sure.
but fun. We can talk more about the finale specifically when we get there. But season 9 arc, per usual. The athlete Jim storyline. He very early on in season 9, he gets some gusto to
Start a company.
Yeah, he wants to take ownership of, his job or maybe his dream. I'm not sure what, the internal motivations are, but he had an idea, told it to his buddy, and then they're going to start it together. The Jim and Pam turmoil. There's some rocks that they are on, their relationship.
Mainly because of the job.
Right.
Yeah.
And Andy's boat trip and how he wants to pursue an acting career. So that definitely takes over Andy's arc for a while. Dwight eventually gets put in charge as manager. That's a big one. And the documentary is airing finally. So they bring that kind of into the show. And then Dwight and Angela, their romantic relationship is kind of...
a big part of it.
Yes. Kind of
Yep.
the whole season, basically. But anything I left out?
No, I mean, the only other detail, it kind of goes along with the documentary airing, and then it also sort of plays into Jim and Pam's turmoil, is like the documentary filmmakers kind of becoming a part of the show.
Characters.
Yeah, specifically one.
Right.
But that I know was a controversial thing whenever it happened on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a ton of reactions whenever it happened from people that were still watching. But that was the only other thing that it made me think of, or
Behind the
that
veil
popped up.
type of thing
Yeah.
where, yeah.
That was the only other plot point I thought of looking at that.
Anything?
Looking at the episode list, nothing comes to mind.
I mean, you've got
Besides those.
you got a couple new characters. You have
I would say
Dunder Mifflin
maybe-
buying
True.
David Wallace coming
Yeah.
back and running Dunder Mifflin.
And undercurrent, I think, might be like it's not super spelled out in any one episode or any run, but I feel like Jim and Dwight's relationship, friendship, I think is growing in this season more than any other one.
It definitely
Like,
started in 8, I think.
yeah,
But yeah,
I think
Yeah, and
that's kind of
especially when you announced your last season, you have 25 episodes too.
yeah.
Okay,
how do we make
sure, it's been fun back and forth,
Sure.
but really what we need, and so
I
you
think it was
have
kind
to-
of planted. I mean, it's been planted throughout, like little moments where they
Sure.
connect. But for me, I feel like it starts when they're in Tallahassee and Jim
Definitely.
tries
Yeah.
to save
the
Dwight's
biggest one,
job.
Yeah.
right.
I think that's kind of the turning point in their relationship. But it definitely fully
Yeah.
is developed in this.
So yeah, the ratings actually decreased from season 8, although most critics said that this was an improvement over season 8. So,
It's surprising that they didn't get any boost from saying it's the last season.
yeah, that's
know.
what I was thinking too. The finale actually won an Emmy for Outstanding Single Camera Picture Editing for a Comedy Series.
It's a very long Emmy title.
Yeah. So that was cool. I don't know. Do you think that's like a attaboy, or I mean, what? Or was
Could have been
the editing
It could have been a
so spectacular in the finale?
no.
You know?
It could have been like a series long. Here, your editing has
Editor's
been
Emmy.
yeah.
Lord
I
of the
don't
Rings
remember
type thing.
what they won previously. I know Steve Carell won at one
Yeah.
point.
The show total won a lot of Emmys.
Yeah, I know they won Best Comedy Series a couple times.
Yeah.
So this might have been an ending like, I don't know if they ever won Best Editing before.
Right.
Yeah. But also,
But
in
that
something
is-
like that, you got to look at what it's up against.
Also, it's a common thread in Emmy awarding, though, is awarding an Emmy to a specific episode, which you have to do
Yeah.
for an entire show or for,
Yeah.
you know,
For Emmys, you have to
for an
submit.
individual.
The show submits specific episodes for specific
So a
things.
season can't win single camera picture editing for a comedy
Correct.
series.
Yeah.
Has to be an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Same with Best Direction.
And same with actors. You win for an episode.
Yeah.
So,
You
That's
can
something to
win
consider, Emmy.
Outstanding Comedy Series.
yeah.
That's
You-
really the only broad one.
Did not know that. Overall thoughts, how did we think that they wrapped up the show?
I think the last 4 episodes are very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think AARM, sorry. Part 1 and 2, and then the finale. I feel like those are all, it's all the finale, really. I mean, it's all tying up. It's
Yeah.
going to take you multiple hours to tie up.
Because
Yeah.
there's
That
also
many-
a time jump between that episode and
The
the
actual finale.
the finale
Yeah.
of how is it like a year?
Thought it was like 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
I think those, but to answer the question, I think those are the strongest episodes of the season. I think those last 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
are the best.
Yeah.
So I think they did. I think they did as good as they could have for everything that they had written up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I said this in the previous episodes. I think the finale would have been way stronger if it had been tied together with an ending for Michael. Because
He still can't move past it.
it's just how I feel, man. Like, I think I watched the finale and the last little run of episodes, and they're good, and they have emotional impact, but when I watch them, I just think, man, this would have been, like, I can, like, see in my head the impact it would have had with Michael also there, you know? And we can talk about the finale specifically, I
Yeah.
guess, but I have a problem with the way they brought back Michael for the finale. I think they should have brought him either back for more or not at all. I think what they have in there is good, but logically speaking, Michael Scott would have been at that panel. Like, it doesn't make any... He's the most attention kind of person, and the documentary that filmed him for 7 years is airing, and they're doing a panel. Nobody asks about Michael at the panel, which makes no sense, and he would have been there. So I think you either write the character so he just completely, like, moved on and severed ties, because also the panel's the same weekend as the wedding. Logically, it's just a logical thing that I'm sure they just couldn't get Steve Carell for all of it. But I think it immediately made me go, why Michael would have been back for all of it, and he would have been more present in the finale, I think. Like I said, what they did with him was good. He only has 2 lines, but it was nice to see him back. I just wish, if you're going to go that route of the documentary has aired, you immediately run into that problem of, what about Michael? Because he was the central figure for 7 years, you know? I think that's something that's missing in 8 and 9 in general, is Michael is barely referenced at all, like every so often. But I feel like the impact of Michael would have been more. I think they were just trying to ignore it to not remind viewers of Michael. But that was really my biggest problem with the finale. I really enjoy the finale itself because I think there's great payoff for Dwight, great payoff for Jim and Pam, and all of the supporting characters. Even Ryan and Kelly get a resolution, sort of.
As much as they will ever get.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of characters get great payoff. It's just the handling of Michael, which I feel like they kind of were handcuffed by, probably and fumbled a little bit. But that's really my only complaint. I think
it could have been a contract problem. It could have been a certain amount of airtime that he can only be on to. Who knows? I mean,
well, I know he was very reluctant to play the character again.
Yeah.
So I doubt he wanted to come back for a full episode.
Yeah.
Because also the other problem would be if you bring Michael back for the full episode, it's more of a distraction. It's like, oh, Michael's back.
Yeah.
And he's doing all of these antics, but I don't know. That's the problem that you run into when continuing a show past the main character is like you want to pay off that main character in the finale of the show in some way, but it's immediately more complicated. Yeah. But that being said, that was a long rant. I think the last couple episodes, like you said, are really good, and there's some very good stuff in this season. And I felt like they, like you said, did as good of a job as they probably could have, given the circumstances.
Also introducing new characters at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a pretty bold decision to make, and I thought they worked really well. I mean, which is rare, I think, for a show.
And losing a character like Gabe, who I thought was, classic.
YouTube exclusive.
Yeah.
Now I'm leaving it in.
And losing a character like Gabe, who was pretty funny and a big part of the show for 2-3 seasons. When did Saber buy?
2.5 seasons.
Yeah. And he's just gone. Like they say, he's leaving in season 8. He's going back to Florida or whatever, and then he's out. Which was kind of surprising this time watching through. I was like, oh, Zach Woods is gone. Like you don't even really think about it, but he is missed, I think. But yeah, it's a better season than 8 for sure.
Yeah, I think I thought the season as a whole was a good way to end the show, I suppose. Like,
also, Greg Daniels came back.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I think
part of it.
Yeah, it felt like it had some of the charm, even though some of the time things weren't as like wonderful. Like I think the Jim and Pam stuff, I could be looking at it through rose-colored glasses. Like I want to like the show, but I think that was interesting. I know a lot of people don't.
A lot of people get upset when their favorite romantic couple on a show has problems,
right?
Especially something like Jim and Pam.
That seems strange, though. I loved that they were like, "Hey, they're
I think
not always in great moods." Like,
I think a lot of people turned it into like a fairy tale kind of relationship
at this point in the show.
Yeah, and I mean they even kind of talk about that in the panel. It's like you guys have this perfect relationship.
Yeah,
and I think viewers of a show can sometimes fall into like.
It's the only aspects
idolizing
of relationships that people really want.
Yeah.
Like, people don't want to struggle. So it's something, it's escapism, and it's like, it's one of those things that people don't want to come to grips with in a romantic relationship.
Yeah. But they exist. Like,
for sure. I think they're the most important parts of relationships.
I think you said on a previous episode, like, it would not feel like a realistic relationship if Jim and Pam were happy all the time and perfectly content. Like, you have to have
And I agree. That's
The downsides.
I agree with Jake on. I think specifically for Jim in this season, I think there's a lot of. I think that's what makes this season strong. Is specifically Jim's balancing actually wanting to having desires of his own.
Mhm.
That's not Pam.
Yeah.
I think that's new in this season.
Yeah.
And a little bit last season. Because Pam's always had desires that aren't Jim on the show.
Yeah.
She's always been interested in painting. She's always, she's been shown to have other interests besides Pam.
And Jim's always been, even whenever he wants to be manager or something, it's so he can support Pam.
Exactly, in the family. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see both of them really pursuing individuality and then how that affects their relationship a little bit.
And how
but then he realizes how to balance those things.
Yeah.
So.
And I think all of us can do that in relationships where we want to prioritize the other person, but we also need to prioritize things that are important just in a practical sense too, like a job,
Sure.
And then you also want to balance am I completely ignoring everything for myself? You don't want to be selfish, but you also want to do things that motivate you. You know what I mean? Because if you're completely self-sacrificing to a point where you're doing a job that makes you miserable, then you're going to end up resenting the job that you're doing for that other person,
Yeah.
So
I think generally, to sum up, I think what you see in this season is the character's age.
Yeah.
I think you see all of the characters age in this season.
And mature quite a bit.
And mature more than you have in other seasons.
I think, so that's one of probably the more controversial things. Is Brian the best way to do that? I don't know, but I enjoy that dynamic of Jim and Pam, seeing that. I think that is realism. I love Dwight's growth is huge this season. I think even the minor characters like Kevin and Oscar and Angela, who are less minor characters this season. So I think a lot of I love the way that the season ended the show. So I've always really enjoyed it as a whole.
The only thing I was going to say about Brian, if you have not seen the show, is the sound guy that kind of gets involved and then he's fired for getting involved. I always thought it was weird. And if the logic of the show is we're watching the show that airs within the world, they would cut it out. I think they would cut that part out of the show. If if that documentary crew is gonna fire the guy for getting involved, we would never see that. So it's one of those things that's
pretty meta.
Yeah, and also it's just I don't think we need that to get the fact that Pam and Jim are struggling. It seems like a other thing of throwing in, is Pam gonna cheat on Jim that? But that never, I think, crosses Pam's mind.
Right.
It's just another guy to make us think that she
audience.
might.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's kind of hacky a little bit. And
I think they could have done it with an existing character.
yeah,
I think that probably would have been.
I just think it's unnecessary. That element of them struggling, I don't think just because a couple is struggling, there's going to be a third party person come in necessarily. You know what I mean? Because you can struggle without that element to it.
Yeah.
They were struggling over a personal are we going to move to Philadelphia? Are we? They didn't hate each other.
Is what you want, what I want. Is what we want, what I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing as
But I think that's a testament to. It was never on her radar. So what does it say about us? I guess. And
we've seen television shows. I think that's what it is.
Since they're struggling, that means that this could happen. It's
sure.
Well, not really.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, I think. But yeah. So how do we feel like they incorporated the real world, Doc? I just remember it's burned into my brain. I remember watching the premiere, and I remember exactly where I was in my dorm room, and I was like, when they start talking to the documentary crew and the camera and they take their packs off, I just remember being like, dude, this is insane. Like, I was like, this season's going to be so crazy. I was like, that is so different. So it's hard to remember that hadn't happened before, but like, it's burned into my brain because I just remember being like, which is like so funny because it's like, it's a documentary. Like, they've probably been talking to these people for 8 years, but I just remember what? And so I was really excited after I watched the premiere because I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, you see them off camera, kind of, right? Because I mean, she's like, ain't nothing, we're boring at this point, right? You kind of have what you need, you know, and kind of felt like a commentary on the show itself.
Yeah.
And I thought the way that they incorporated the crew was cool, I thought.
I think the strongest way they incorporate real life is in the finale. I think doing something as complicated as airing the documentary and it's still showing being in the show, I think that's so difficult to picture for somebody, for like a screenwriter, and I think they pulled that off pretty well. I think doing a follow-up thing with starting with Dwight in his car, a few months later or whatever. I think that's a really smart and it wouldn't be everyone's first inclining to write that. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I think when you're talking about a finale, like, everyone has expectations for it. Yeah. And I don't think anybody expected that kind of thing.
I felt like they handled it okay. I think they did some stuff well and other stuff I didn't. Because you open up a can, just like you're saying, you open up a can of worms when you start getting meta like that. And I think they didn't fully wrangle the can of worms. Like, how long is the documentary that aired? Right. Is it the show that we've been watching the whole time? Is it a movie? Like, what? And then it bleeds into the whole Michael thing. Is like, because they started doing that, they started having questions that I wouldn't have had otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, if they had just showed the show without that meta element of it airing too, I think the finale would have been fine. I think it would have worked if you cut out the panel, because the panel is always my least favorite part of the finale. Because I think people, the other thing about the finale, and it's a problem with the character of Andy, I hate Andy's story at the end. I think it's so lame. Like, him going on a talent show and crying and it going viral and all of this stuff. It's too, like, I don't know. It's something about it I've never enjoyed at all. And I think and it's been a problem with Andy the last 2 seasons. I just don't feel like they knew what to do with Andy, like, at all. Because he's not Michael. He's not the same, but he was the manager, but then he's not the manager, but then he's the manager again. And then he goes off and now wants to be an actor. And there's some funny stuff in that. Yeah. But, like, a bunch of people being super big Andy Dwyer fans because of the documentary.
That was really close.
Oh, sorry. Andy Bernard.
That's too bad.
We have to leave it in, I mean.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Andy Bernard, sorry.
Who's that?
Say Bernard. We're talking about Parks and Rec, right?
That's what I love the futuristic finale is crazy.
When she touches everyone,
I was like,
that brings on the future.
Like, Lost again.
I really never would have thought that that's what was going to happen.
Anyways.
The thing is, if you're going to use Michael Scott, you have to either use him more or not at all.
Agreed. I've been saying that for like 7 minutes straight.
Anyways, I just don't feel like it's believable that a bunch of people would be big fans of Andy's. Like, I don't know. Here's my final point on it, and then I'll shut up. It reminds me of when they did the movie with Jack Black episode. Like, when they're watching the movie. Uh-huh. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like it would be a thing that happened in real life. You know what I mean? Like, that movie didn't feel like something that would be released as a movie and they would be watching. Andy's thing going viral doesn't strike me as something that would go viral because of the nature of those shows. People have breakdowns all the time. Like, why would that go viral? But that whole panel thing, I think, was just like a kind of a mess because of the going meta, like introducing the documentary. It just created all these things that are like, okay, what is the documentary that they're all big fans of? Is it the same thing that we're big fans of? Why isn't Michael there if he's there the next day? All of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that would have been cleaner if it were 3 seasons earlier.
Yeah.
Or 2 seasons earlier. Just because you don't have as much. I don't know. I think the only answer is yes. The doc that they're airing is because you can only go based on the little bit that you get at the bar when they actually air it.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of ARM2.
It's literally the first episode, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So, I
airing,
mean, you
yeah.
can only assume, and it's the exact shots. So, you can only assume that it's, Greg Daniels would probably tell you that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
like-
probably fair.
It doesn't matter because it doesn't. No one, you can only suspend disbelief for so long on something like that. No one's actually going to believe that they're actually watching a show that we watch on TV. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, it's too hard to.
Yeah.
Starts this loop.
I think
Yeah.
I think my point would be like, because watching the show made me think of this, like while I was watching him for the first time, immediately all of those things started going around in my head.
It's their fault.
Something didn't quite work perfectly. And I don't expect it to be perfect. It's just, I think, a flaw in some of the decisions that they made and a flaw in continuing past Michael. But again, like I do feel like I'm razzing on it really hard. I don't mean to. It's
Well,
a good
you're naturally
finale.
upset because it's a show that you like a lot.
yeah.
And you think there could have been a much, much better ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably where all of that.
Because some of those moments are great in the like the moments with Michael at the wedding are great. He has an amazing last line for Michael Scott. And he gets into that's what she said joke, and
Check all the boxes.
you get him reunited with Dwight and like all of this stuff. And but it also opens the question is like, did they ever talk to Michael? I feel like they would, but they're all reacting as if they've not heard from Michael in 2 years, but knowing Michael and how much he loves those people, he would have been talking to them. So it's a problem you get into when any main character leaves a show. Sure. It's just, do you completely ignore that they ever existed, or do you try and acknowledge it?
Yeah.
And they kind of did half.
I don't even think they mentioned him until like midway through season 8.
When they
Yeah.
have, and also whenever in this season when Bob Odenkirk, like
Yeah.
Pam
Yeah.
goes over and she's like, "Oh my God, he's Michael."
Michael. Yeah.
But anyways, I've been ranting for
even
way
if it
too
was
long.
like, yeah, even if it was one of those things where it was like, they acted like it was super positive that he's gone or something like that.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
Stanley's like super pumped or
Yeah.
something to
Right.
go to work. I don't know.
Because
Put
there's
your
a
phone
lot
down.
of-
Oh, I was just talking to Michael. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, so I remember vaguely hearing that you couldn't reference him. When he left,
That's the thing is you just don't know
I
what
remember
kind of like
when season 8 was airing
restrictions there are.
So
on
I don't know if
something
that was true, but I
I don't think there
remember
would be
hearing it.
any legal reason that the show couldn't reference Michael from a contract standpoint with Steve Carell.
Yeah.
If you're just mentioning him, nothing there, like, because they did it in season 9,
Right,
like there
yeah.
wouldn't be any difference between 8 and 9 that you wouldn't be able to reference.
But generally,
Michael.
maybe the show got too big for itself to like.
They might have set a rule
An NBC,
internally
Right.
for the show is like, we're just
For
not
this
going to
amount of
reference
time.
Michael.
Yeah.
Like The Office was so big that maybe hands from NBC were too much on the script and writing and
Maybe.
in the creative room.
Or it could have been in the creative room. They were like, we want to try and differentiate ourselves post Michael. We don't want to mention him.
Could be.
Like that would make logical sense for writers to just be like, we got to move forward.
We know it. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just got we can't use it as a crutch,
Yeah.
which I don't think it would have been just mentioning him every so often.
Mhm.
But Anyways,
You want to do episodes?
let's do it.
Sure.
We'll do the character arc thing later. So
Okay, season 9. We're going to go up to the Christmas break as we always do. Episode 1 is New Guys. 2 is Roy's Wedding. 3 is Andy's Ancestry. 4 is Work Bus. 5 is Here Comes Trouble. 6 is The Boat. 7 is The Whale. 8 is The Target. 9 is Dwight Christmas. And that's the Christmas break. So there's only 9 episodes in the first half there.
There's 25 total episodes.
Yes.
Why don't we just go up until halfway, like halfway through
we
the
can't
episodes?
change
I
now.
don't think we can do
Okay.
that
No.
now.
Been
Been doing this for 9 seasons.
Work Bus is my favorite episode out of those,
Okay.
for sure. I think it's hilarious.
I enjoy Dwight Christmas quite a bit.
I know, I was thinking, but I was like, I can't pick a Christmas episode.
But for a Christmas episode, it's pretty
It's
good.
great. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's
Uh,
more building on the Jim and Dwight friendship, too.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree with.
And Pam works so hard to make it happen,
Mhm.
you know, and then Jim just like pieces.
Yeah.
And she's like bummed.
Yeah.
And then, I'm back.
I would agree with Wes. I think Dwight Christmas is the best one there. I think the premiere's really good. I think New Guys
Yeah.
is a great episode.
If you like Dwight Jr. and Plop,
yeah.
which I love them. I think
Yeah.
they're so funny. I talked to a lot of people that think they're a waste of screen space, but I think they're so funny. So yes, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think the
think
premiere's
Clark's
good.
way funnier than Pete
Plop.
is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because of the way.
That guy
They
is
write him.
funnier, I think, too.
Well, yeah, that's. They're pairing him with Dwight though, which is
Yeah.
naturally going to be more funny.
Yeah.
So I
More
think
of a
New
fruit
Guys.
man or a root man?
Least favorite in those 9.
I think it's probably the boat, right? I mean, it's the
Yeah.
start of Andy's descent.
Yeah.
Yes,
I would say the
I would
boat.
say the boat.
However, isn't the boat the one where Dwight's on the radio call?
Yes.
That part of that episode is really funny.
Yeah.
But again, don't care about Andy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree. I think the boat is my
Okay.
least favorite.
Starting January 10th.
Unanimous decision. The boat is the worst episode of the first half of season 9 of The Office on this
Unanimous.
podcast.
And
It's
we got
not
a
for you,
2/3
season 2.
decision on the best episode.
True.
2/3.
Yeah, you're right, guys.
Work Bus is directed by Bryan Cranston. Did you know that?
Who is the guy that was in that one episode of The X-Files?
That's what he's known. Everyone, that is what he's known for. The one episode of the X-Files. Look it up.
I know him from The
Top
X-Files.
Top build for that episode of the X-Files. Okay, starting January 10th. Episode 10 is Lice. Episode 11 is Suit Warehouse. 12 is Customer Loyalty. 13 is Junior Salesman. 14 is Vandalism. 15 is Couples Discount. 16 is Moving On, Part 1. It doesn't say Part 2 after that, but I assume that is.
There's no. You just have to move on from it.
Okay. 17 is The Farm. 18 is Promos. 19 is Stairmageddon.
It's a good one.
20 is Paper Airplane. 21 is Living the Dream. 22 is AARM Part 1. 23 is AARM Part 2. And the finale Parts 1 and 2. 25 and 26, or 24 and 25.
It's one episode.
No.
Favorites? I would say I think I like AARM a little bit more than the finale.
I actually agree with that. I think that's.
I think Dwight picking himself as the assistant
that stuff
really
is gold.
great.
Yeah.
It's a weird combo of like really funny and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Because the finale is pretty much just emotional. Like
Mhm.
there's some really funny parts in it, but I think those 2 episodes or that one 2-parter
Yeah.
is
And AARM feels like an Office episode from like
Yeah.
early on,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
because that's the one where he has the security door, right?
Yeah.
Like that's great, and that's the thing is like I want more of Dwight being the manager. I wish they did it
I agree with
earlier,
that.
like because that stuff would be really good. Jim messing with Dwight as the manager would be so
Andy
good.
Dwyer.
With Andy Dwyer. But yeah,
I would say a close second to that is Junior Salesman. I think that one's really good. It's where they Clark and Plop
Yeah.
go under Dwight and
Dwight.
yeah,
And Jim.
Dwight and Jim's wing.
hmm
That one's funny.
I think I'd probably pick the finale.
Least, well, why?
That's why I would pick the finale for the least favorite episode because the show ends.
Oh, it's your favorite and your least
Yeah.
favorite. Nice. Okay.
Unprecedented stuff happening. here.
Really. Least favorite?
Could I look at him one more time?
Ooh.
Okay, that one.
That's so weird.
Here,
Um,
let me see this real quick.
I think Lice
Yes.
is
Really?
probably the least favorite.
Yes. Oh. Here, I was trying to see this.
YouTube exclusive content. Lice is just not very memorable to me. Like a lot of times when I'm going through these, and especially in 8 and 9, the ones I don't remember, that's saying something about that episode. It didn't make an impact really.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say Lice.
Least favorite.
Least favorite for me. That one's not that great.
Vandalism.
Yeah.
I drew a butt because it's funny. The finale.
I would say Living the Dream. I think it's where Andy's going. Andy decides to quit his job and
Yeah.
go.
He poops on David Wallace's car.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some Jim and Pan stuff in there, but it's not. At this point, we've seen that already.
Yeah.
In the season, where they're like talking about their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's the meat's already been, the meat of that conversation's already been had
Okay.
and processed.
I was wondering where that
And
was going to
digested.
go.
The burger's been
The
cooked.
meat's already been.
Digested.
Right. You get it.
You know?
I guess so.
She just cracks it.
That is it for all the episodes.
Yeah. We're at like 45 minutes.
If we want to keep it the same.
So let's rank this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that we have them all, this is it. We have all of the 9 seasons of The Office. Where would you put this one?
Second to last.
It's difficult for me to remember where I ranked the other ones. I would say in front of season 8,
Mm-hmm.
and I would put it in front of. I would put this behind season 1 as well. I think it's one of the 2 later seasons that I
Whoa.
would put behind 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put it in front of 8 and in front of. Gosh, it's so hard for me to remember.
For me, it would just be in front of 8. It'd be second to last.
It's probably 5th or 6th on mine.
Okay.
Depending on the day.
What about today?
5th or 6th.
All right. There we go.
I think I would just put it in front of 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd just put it in front of 8.
That's insane.
Well, shall we go through some of these at least?
Yes. So to wrap up our Office series on season 2 of This Podcast Is Not For You, we are just going to talk about the Office TV show as a whole. Just hit some quick talking points because it is important to us, I guess, to say the least. So let's just put this one
Plus,
first.
we haven't talked about the series as a whole.
Correct.
Just individual seasons.
Correct. First, how has The Office shaped your sense of humor? Has it? If it has, how has it?
I mean, I think hugely. It's one of the most prominent sitcoms to come out when we were young, and it's definitely one of the most quoted shows, I think, in our lives. Definitely your guys' life.
Yeah.
You guys often quote it, and I forget what the quote is from.
Mm-hmm. Parks and Rec. Favorite Andy Dwyer quote.
Yeah.
I just don't think there'd be that many fans of him. You know?
No one would go show up for Andy Dwyer at an Office Q&A panel.
No one's a Mouse Rat fan.
No.
But yeah, I think it's hard to quantify how big of an impact it had because it's so iconic and it was such a big part of what we watched growing up. Like 9 years, essentially 7 to 9 years of television.
I was trying to remember if That's What She Said was like
it was not
that
really
prevalent.
It was not really a thing until the show.
Mm-hmm. I agree. No, I think that's definitely true.
So that alone, I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, personally, I think it just, and that's partly why I want to revisit Community and revisit Arrested Development. And so it's like a lot of it is shed some light on the fact that like I'm sort of like a dry humor kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think that has come through in my personality too. I really do. And so I think that is a large part of it is The Office and just the way that it taught, you know, high school at times, college Jake at times, post-college Jake at times, you know, how the nuances of like how to interact with people when you're trying to make them laugh.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know. So, yeah.
To me, I don't think of humor first. I think of the character relationships first. I mean, it has shaped the humor for sure. Because I mean, I quote The Office more than I think of original thoughts for the most part.
Yeah.
So, but I would say to go off of your point of growing up, the Jim and Pam stuff was at a time when it was like that, you know, a relationship was what you were thinking about at that age, you know. So I think the relationships probably, and especially Jim and Pam, those are the things that I remember the most of impacting.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned other shows to kind of jump just stream of consciousness here to another question is a lot of shows post The Office tried to be like The Office. I mean, Parks and Rec most notably, but what does The Office do right that maybe some of those other shows don't get right all the time?
Yes.
Like, I think of Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I know The Good Place is sort of different, but that is also from one of the creators of The Office.
And we're watching
Modern Family.
Superstore.
Yeah. Is Superstore's mockumentary, right?
No.
It just
I don't think
looks
there's
like a
any talking
mockumentary.
heads, right? There's no
Correct.
talking heads.
But it's a workplace,
Yeah.
non-laugh track,
Yeah.
realistic comedy, you know.
Yeah. Single
where-
camera.
When it's Justin Spitzer, so
Mm-hmm.
he worked for on The Office for a while too.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, there's a bunch of them. Like, we just listed a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But what do you think
yeah,
one gets right?
When I read that, the first thing that jumped to my mind when I read that when you sent it over was it never ever feels like it's telling you when to laugh. And I think that's the best part of it is if it never cared if you missed the joke or not.
Yeah.
I love that. And even in so many like copy paste shows that came after it, it felt like we're going to end this scene with a punchline and we're going to hang on them for 2 seconds after they say it because we really want you to
a
get
weakness I think about in Brooklyn Nine-Nine a lot.
Yes.
Like, I enjoy Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it's very, like, here's the joke.
Yeah.
Boom. There's the joke.
And I think that's what
characters trying to be funny.
Yes.
Not
Funny characters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Michael Scott is funny because he's pathetic, because he's
I think that
saying these things genuinely.
I think that's what this shares a lot with a show like Arrested Development. Is Arrested Development, like you said, never cared whether you got all of the jokes.
Yeah.
It made all of the jokes it was going to make and kept going.
Yeah.
You know.
Someone
And
like Job is funny because of the character, not because he's saying a one-liner
Right.
joke.
Yeah.
and so much of it is situational because you know the character.
Yes.
So like Kevin running to the bathroom because he has to convince other people that he's a runner.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, I don't think Jim is like naturally a funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing things that are funny.
Yeah.
He's not like,
I mean, you see him in instances where the context doesn't justify him being funny, and he's not to the characters around him.
yeah,
And people don't think he's funny all the time.
yeah,
You know, people think he's kind of obnoxious occasionally.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like Oscar doesn't like him very much.
Yeah.
So I think that's a strong suit of the show is even the funny characters are the ones doing the jokes are realistic.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to answer your question, what's the best Jim and Dwight prank?
I always think about the one. It's hard. It's not really a prank, but it's him listing out all of the stuff. Like you're just hearing it,
Mhm.
and then Jim's commenting on it, and
That would
Dwight's
definitely count.
Dwight's face just like
You
so
can
over
expand
it.
it to just Jim and Dwight scene if you need to.
Yeah.
But I mean, that definitely works.
The nickel one I would have loved to have seen. The
Mhm.
telephone one, you know?
what would have been great is you hear all of that, and then in another episode or something, just as a cold open, you see it.
Yeah, that would have been good. But that one's good. The first one that comes to my head is Asian Jim.
It's a pretty
I
good
love
one.
that one. And the Iris Black phone call, which is the one that's happening in Junior Salesman, right? Or is that what we said?
The radio interview.
Yeah, the radio
Mhm.
interview.
It's in
One that we said, I can't remember.
the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's so funny, and it's like almost the entire like B plot. So it's like a lot of it, you know.
Mhm.
He, like Jim like runs and he's like, "What are you doing? The stock price is tanking." Just like, pushes him out, and then Jim like looks at the camera. And he's like, "Yeah." So there's a lot of it in that. That and then the cold open in Tallahassee where he like
yeah,
falls
that
out of the
one's so
closet.
good.
Yeah, that
those
was
are
really
the
good.
three that always come to mind.
I
I
think
love the season 2. I just finished the Superfan, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many more desk pranks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it seems like they shot like 20, and then so I'm enjoying watching the additional pranks. I guess
Yeah.
I'll say that, but
It's also hard to top just popping the
yeah,
exercise ball.
ball.
It's a really great one.
Yeah. There's
Him
layers
just-
to
It's
that.
him
one.
just a
completely
magical
falling
take
out.
too,
Yeah.
because I mean they didn't plan on it
Yeah.
happening that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
everyone's reaction's real, and
Mhm.
that's a special one for sure.
Yeah.
I think mine's probably a tie either for Faxes from the Future
Mm.
and then putting his stuff in the vending machine. I think that is just
those are good too.
because they're just clever. I love
Yeah.
how smart those ones are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I like them
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
What's what is Steve his name or whatever? You know the maintenance guy. Who, Steve? Yeah, Steve. Whatever.
Just giving him a bag of nickels. I mean, it's just that one. Those two are just so funny to me.
Oh, cool stapler. What's the one thing that makes The Office different to you?
I mean, I think the documentary format is really
Yeah. If
What
you had
makes
to
it
boil it
stands out.
down to one
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
because even some of the shows kind of ripping off The Office aren't trying to do that. Parks and Rec did,
Right.
and I think it did it honestly to its detriment. I don't think Parks and Rec needed to have the documentary format.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like they're not showing
Especially-
the documentary at the end.
Yeah,
They're
it's just
it's not-
jumping all over the
It
place.
never
like,
says it's a documentary
right.
for
It's just
the
shot
Parks
that
and
way.
Rec department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Why are they getting talking heads? Why are they?
Yeah, I think the part of Parks and Rec that doesn't make sense is the talking heads and looking at the camera and stuff like that. I think it was just holdover from The Office, and they didn't
Oh, for sure.
they didn't really think it through.
Yeah.
They were just like, we're gonna do another documentary style show. But yeah, I think the documentary format is really what does it.
Yeah, I mean that's the big takeaway. I think that's what makes The Office what it is.
Mm-hmm.
For
Or
sure.
workplace comedy.
Yep.
What's the next one you guys want to
Most well-developed character. I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah. What do you think?
I was gonna say Dwight. I think he had.
This is from season 1 to season 9. Who's got the best arc? Who goes through the most?
Yeah, I think Dwight, because you give the power of being a manager to Dwight from season 1, and it
He'd
would
be
be
totally
an
different.
absolute disaster.
Yeah.
He would fire everybody. He wouldn't have any kind of practical understanding or like calm, logical knowledge of how to manage an office.
Yeah.
He would just destroy it and be under an iron fist. It would be more like when he's
Right.
manager at
Interim.
first,
Yeah.
when he's interim.
Yeah.
But I think he, especially in the last season, like built him up as a maturing character that you could would be able to competently manage the branch. His eccentricities would still be there, just like in Michael's case. But yeah, I would say Dwight.
I think that's the right answer. I think Dwight's. He's.
I feel like you're always kind of begrudgingly agreeing with me. At
No,
times.
I'm just trying to think of something that you didn't say.
Hmm.
That's the thing. I mean, you get the most like emotional development with Jim or Pam.
Yeah.
I would say.
Or maybe
I think
Michael.
Jim's a more developed character than Pam is. Pam, they kind of drop. I feel like.
Yeah.
Midway
She
through.
I feel like she becomes a mom, and
Yeah.
then they kind of stop
Yeah.
doing a lot of stuff with her.
Yeah.
And if anything, they didn't handle well on the Jim and Pam being rocky was Pam's side of it. I think they
Yeah.
kind of just made her like sad and complaining,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like they could have done a lot more nuance to her side of it
Yeah.
and being like, I want to understand, I want to try and support, but this is really hard. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, they could have done better with that. I think.
I would say it's either Dwight or Jim. I think just to pick a different side, I'll say Jim. It's very close to me.
Mhm.
Same thing with Jim in season 1. Like he wouldn't have been trying to get a job. He wouldn't have been trying. He wouldn't in his current job.
Right.
He wouldn't have been. He gets the courage to ask Pam. He gets. He
Gets embarrassed when he wears a suit
does.
when the new boss comes in.
Yeah.
Like that would not have happened
No.
in season 1.
Right.
You
You
know.
wouldn't have cared.
Yeah. So it's subtle, I feel
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
He knows when to prank. He learns to not prank as much
Yeah.
anymore or try
Yeah.
not to.
Mm-hmm.
His stuff with Ryan is interesting. He doesn't really like him, but then, I think
Yeah.
I think Jim's right up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they could have been a little bit cleaner and like he's a co-manager and then he's back to being a salesman and then he's assistant manager but then he's also I feel like his job description was kind of bouncing all over the place because I feel like they were trying to figure out what best to do with him job-wise. It's like
Yeah.
what makes sense for Jim to do, and they landed on it, which is go somewhere else
Yeah.
because that's really what makes sense for Jim to do. But I feel like in the interim, they were trying to figure something else out and made it a little bit inconsistent, but they worked it out in the end, I feel like, very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I would say out of the two that I had picked, I'd probably pick Oscar. Just because I think when I read that, I don't think Oscar was developed at all in season 1, and then you get to season 9, and you have a pretty good idea of who he is.
Yeah.
So when I read that,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I really think, like, some of my favorite parts of the later season are Oscar and Kevin, like
Mhm.
their friendship and how it develops, and then you see Oscar
And then him supporting Angela,
caring
too.
for Angela
Yeah.
when she's been
Yeah, for
nothing
sure.
but terrible to him, and has every reason to quit when Michael, calls him faggy, and
Yeah.
he gets a free vacation out of
And
so
kisses him.
yeah, there's like a lot of stuff that along the way that is really interesting about Oscar's like total character arc.
Yeah.
So that was the first one that came to my head. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
What if we drop down to? I don't think we need to do the one-liner. Maybe best minor character, kind of along those same lines.
Sure.
I just don't think we can do all of this.
Yeah.
So that'd be anybody that's not in the
Opening titles,
credits, which is Dwight, Michael, Jim, and Pam.
yeah,
Those are the
not
only four.
not including the
BJ, I
later
guess, technically.
credits where they
Correct.
changed them out. Just the main.
That's what I was
Yeah.
considered. That's who I consider to be the show considers to be the main characters.
Right. So even in season 8 and 9, when they changed that up a little bit, we're kind of going to go off the main set.
Would assume.
'Kay.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's your the best minor character?
The best.
Yeah. I think Creed. I just love the
Bang
idea.
for the buck. Yeah, definitely.
I just love that the lore of Creed. There's so much going on that actually got cut out of the show.
yeah.
And when you watch the superfan cuts, like they reference in season 2 that he lives in the office and that he is Creed Bratton from the Grassroots, and he also lives in Canada, and like all of this crazy stuff that you just got little hints about in the normal run of the show. It's just great, and the payoff at the end is pretty great too.
Yeah.
Just straight up gets arrested.
It's like such a great like monologue that he's giving to, and it cuts to him.
All right.
Take me away,
Let's do
boys.
this.
Like it's so funny.
It's good.
The best minor character.
What do you got, Pate?
Creed is tough to top. I think Jake's gonna pick Ryan. I guess.
Are we counting him?
technically- Yeah, I don't know.
He's in the main cast or in the credits.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess it's true.
So talk
But
for a little bit longer.
Yeah. I don't know though. He's in there because he's also writing though. I don't think he's in there because he's supposed to be a main character. Maybe, I guess.
Yeah, but those are acting credits. Like those are not.
It's just that's a weird choice.
It is a weird
I always
inclusion.
thought that was weird that he was there.
I mean, yeah, really early on too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you also look in those early episodes, he is a bit more prominent than he became later. And I feel like they're not going to revoke a guy's
Mm.
main
'Cause
credit.
they maybe needed him more in the writing room. than-
Yeah. But, I
Anyway,
mean,
I guess let's say no to
Okay.
Ryan. Sorry. It's tough. I'll pick a weird one. I really like David Wallace a lot.
It's a good one.
I think I don't know that he's the best.
Talk about
Mhm.
character arc.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's such a good straight man
yeah.
in the show.
And he seems like such a decent person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to see him go a little wacky is fun too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that he's the best, but I'd pick him definitely up there in my favorites.
Every time I see that actor and other things, I'm like, oh, it's David Wallace.
Definitely. I'm gonna pick Vikram.
For real. Well, if you concentrate on your sales, yeah.
I think if it was favorite, I would pick Stanley.
Mm.
It's best. I'm gonna say Kevin.
It's a solid choice.
I think. I don't know. Maybe I just have a thing for accounting, I guess. But Kevin, and even with the super fans, there's so much more stuff with Kevin. But yeah, he gets his heart broken, and no one ever really seems to ever care. And you know,
It's barely paid attention to by the
Yeah.
show itself.
yeah, and
Just like, yeah.
he's got a band, and he's like working. Seems like he really wants to like do, you know, and yeah.
It's a bar at the end.
Yeah, and he owns a nice establishment, and so yeah, I think I would probably pick Kevin.
It's good.
And he's
Well-
funny, so
Mhm.
Why don't we just drop down to there has been talk and rumors for a while about a reunion or a reboot
Yeah.
revival thing. Even cast members of the show have talked about it. And when Steve Carell was on SNL, Jenna Fisher was in the audience, and I think someone else was. And
I think Ellie.
yeah, Ellie Kemper. And they were just like, hey, it's great that you're doing this. Do the Office reunion. And so there's been a lot of talk of it. The head of NBC has said they want to do something. Not sure what.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that? Should it happen? And if so, what possible format could they do that would make any sense?
I think it's never worked for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be...
What about the X-Files?
Reunion?
Or reboot?
Reboot, revival, reunion kind of thing. I'm not talking about like a Friends reunion where they got all together and just talked about the show.
Okay.
That I think would be whatever. Like that would be fine. It's just an interview essentially with the cast getting back together.
Yeah.
That's not really what I mean, I guess. So reunion is not the right word. Revival of the show with the cast. Or the other thing that's been floated around is a reboot where it's new cast.
I think a reboot would be terrible.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So we can all just dismiss the idea of a reboot.
I think a
would we
reboot
care
would be
at
awful.
all? Would you care at all? I think we would all watch the first episode.
I would watch a few episodes for sure. But I don't think that you can do, for me personally, what The Office did for me. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
Again, ever.
Also, it wouldn't be The Office.
Right.
Like, The Office is these characters. You
I
know?
think the downside of what's happening now is
Downsizing?
in terms of like the scope of societal events. We know about everything, and so the downside of it happening in 2005 and 2006 is like there's so much you could mine in like a mockumentary workplace style comedy now
Sure.
about everything. I mean, so there's so much stuff you could do, but I don't think that it would ever reach like the level of this show.
So then what about a revival where you bring back the cast either for a one-off movie or a limited series run? Thoughts?
It's all gross to me. It's all gross. Just because...
Just let it be done is how I kind of feel about it. Like, things have their time and their place. People don't want things to end.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to handle it when something's done and has a conclusive ending. So they just want to bring it. Now, I understand things like Arrested Development, where it was like cut short and it didn't really get its following until after it was done. So they brought it back, but that didn't really work.
The things that I think work really well are things like the West Wing reunion that they did on Broadway. They just do an episode of the West Wing that they've already done. They shot it, but they do it on a stage play. They do it in a different medium.
I never watched it. Was it
It's
good?
amazing.
Yeah?
It's amazing. And it's, obviously John died, so they
Right.
got a different actor to play his character. But it's like, if that happens, doing it in a different medium is like, I think, where there's fertile ground, if there is any at all. So that would be really cool. And that's not a reboot. That's new content. And it's a new, you're seeing the characters again. But that's fascinating and fun.
Jake, would you want to see a revival of The Office?
I don't think so.
Good.
I'm okay
I'm
with
really
it.
glad.
I'm okay with it being over.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the thing where,
Would you watch it if they did it?
well, for sure.
I mean,
Definitely.
I would as well.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think
Which
it would,
maybe we're part of the problem.
I think it would do a disservice to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, we watched X-Files, but in our run of the show, it wasn't a revival, I guess, right? Because it was already out. And was it weird at times? Yes. Was it as good at times? If not better.
With more updated stuff.
Yeah,
shooting wise.
and they dealt with all the stuff that, and maybe it works in X-Files because they dealt with a lot of the stuff that they created.
And and I would say the type of the show that X-Files is allows it to do that.
Yeah. So,
and it allows it, like we were reading in the book, that Chris Carter he's considered rebooting
the musical
it, like with
has
new
to
characters
happen.
and everything. I think that works.
Yeah.
I think that would work fine.
Yeah.
That's just the type of show that it is. If you cast it right,
Yeah.
it would work.
Because the X-Files is more of a...
it's higher concept. It's less grounded on the specific characters.
And it's less serialized. It's
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
this episode
sure.
than this episode. There is a mythology
Mhm.
that I guess you could say it takes 7 left turns and then a right turn, but it's like
Yeah.
it is there. But this is all
Character, yeah.
development
Yeah.
from beginning to end.
The concept is so basic
yes.
that it has to rely on the characters.
Yeah. So I don't think I would want it to happen. I wouldn't mind something like the Friends thing.
Where they got back together and
I
talked.
would eat that up.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
mean-
love a round
I
table.
was gonna say anything that they do now, office related, I eat up. Like
Yeah.
when Steve Carell did an interview about what it meant to him when he had him on Brian
Yeah.
Bumgarner's podcast. I was like,
Yeah, I've listened to some of the
eating it
Office
up,
Ladies
like,
podcast too, and it's really interesting.
So because it's what did it mean to you guys? Because I know what it meant to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff I love. I would love if they did another like Office Fest in Scranton.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would be there.
I would put money on something like that happening at some point.
But I
Them
think
all getting back together and
those are the things that I would want
It's
to
way
happen.
I think that's what the fans would enjoy, whether they like say they want a reboot or
Yeah.
not, or a renewal of the show.
Mhm.
I think a roundtable. I think an in-depth interview of seeing the cast get back together.
Yeah.
Because with doing a revival, the thing that you would have to do because of the nature of the show is so obvious. You would just have to do a "Where Are They Now" like special thing.
So the Friends thing
couldn't
was
get-
not a. There weren't episodes of
No.
Friends. It was
No.
just a reunion.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's so great about it is it was billed as like a
That's what I thought it was.
exactly. That's what's
They weren't in character at all.
No.
Interesting.
They
that weird?
they did some script readings, like just sitting around like reading an
Yeah,
old
yeah.
script and stuff.
Mhm.
I think,
That would be cool too.
but
To see The Office.
no, they rebuilt the set for Friends, and then they just all got together. And there was some like I think behind the scenes clips or something, but they didn't do new
That's good.
stuff.
yeah.
I just don't care about Friends, so like
And it's also different than something like Community, where they, like Abed sang 6 seasons in a movie, the
Yeah.
whole show.
Yeah.
mhm.
So I think it'd be fun just to
complete it, have the
yeah.
movie.
the
Yeah.
symmetry of
But what like I was saying is like you would, because logically in the show they're scattered to the
Yeah.
wind. So you would have to just do a "Where Are They Now?" Have a reason for them all to come back together, but you kind of already did that with like the panel.
right.
And Dwight got married already. So what thing do you do?
Yeah.
Michael's funeral or something? Like you would have to do something
Mhm.
major to bring all of them together. And then it's just super contrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares kind of thing. Yeah. So
No, I think all of that's terrible.
yeah, I completely agree. I would absolutely watch them getting back together and just talking about the show.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably get that at some point. Like they're not shy about talking about the show
Yeah.
and how much they loved being a part of it. I think now that Steve
So
Carell
what are
was
they-
away from it for a while, he would talk about it again.
We're coming up on the 20 year,
The
probably.
20 year of the final episode or the final season airing.
20?
No,
or,
no, no,
sorry,
I mean
10.
I meant 20 of the original
20
Of
would
the first
be 03.
2023.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the
Sorry.
20 year
5.
first season.
Yeah, 9 years. And no, it would have been 03, I think.
2005 March.
Dang. So 2025 would be 20 years.
So that's realistic. They could do
Yeah.
something then.
That's a realistic timeline.
I see that. Realistic.
That's
Anyways,
it.
Think about this. 21 years. Oh. Well,
The Office.
The Office Season 9 is officially over on Season 2 of This Podcast Is Not For You. The finale of The Office as a series, Seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, on Season 2 of This Podcast Is Not For You, is officially over as well. Season
but
2 of
not
this...
our Office watching. As the super fans continue to come out, we will keep watching
I
The Office.
did see a meme. It was like, it's funny how everyone just asks, do you watch The Office? And no one says, have you seen
The Office?
It's so strange. You know, 'cause you
interesting.
say, oh, have you seen Westworld?
Yeah.
Do you watch The Office? I was like,
Continue
that's
watching.
true. That's
That
true.
is very true.
So, I ask
Do
you.
you watch them?
The
I ask
Office is
you,
always
listeners.
airing now on Peacock.
I'm Jake.
I'm Wes.
I'm
You forgot it.
Gene Lollipop.
Thanks for being with us, Gene.
No problem.
It's hard to introduce a new character on.
I know that
And
it
we
is.
didn't really, and we didn't really introduce you at all.
Right. We just wanted them to get to know you as
That's
so.
perfectly. That's how I like it. When I talk about I travel around and I talk about final seasons of shows. That's my thing.
We will get you when we talk about the X-Files.
I also sell lollipops. We'll see you later.
It's in the genes.